Okay, so I thought I'd give a quick rundown here on what we're thinking in terms of the work we're doing to the boat. There's three main projects. There's the tower, there's paint, and there's the interior work. Now when I showed you the boat earlier, you saw this big wooden truss thing sitting here. That was kind of an early mock-up to kind of get a feel for what the shade canopy is going to look like. And here I'll just give you a little more detail on what we're thinking here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're gonna wind up cutting the current back window out. We're gonna leave the front windows in place like a big windscreen, and we're gonna put the first main bar up right about here. Then we'll put up a second reinforcing bar, something like that. And then over the top, we're gonna put a big bar that goes all the way to the back. And this is gonna wind up being the shade for the boat. Then, then we'll kind of, we'll build it up a little bit, give it a little more texture, and then we'll build a big canopy over the top like this. So I'll have a big shade canopy. We'll put a little bit of ladder rungs up here, and we'll make this top portion solid so that we can use it as kind of a diving platform. So that's kind of what the plan is for the tower. Now for the paint, we're going to use a white rhino liner type stuff. I think it's called raptor liner or something like that. It's white, it's textured, and we chose white because it's so hot here in the summer that metal gets just too hot to touch. And so basically we're going to do the entire transom is going to be done in white. We're going to do the entire gunnel in white here like this, and also where there's an existing green stripe, we're going to do that in white also. So we're going to do all that in white. We're also going to do the windshields in white, as well as the tower. So that's going to be done in white. And then what we've got to do is we've got to talk about the interior. Now we've had a lot of discussion on the interior. What we think we're going to wind up doing is putting in bench seats along the back. And those bench seats are then going to come up to just a single forward-facing seat with like a little drink holder console here. And these benches are going to come all the way forward. We're also going to do a shade cover, like that. And, of course, we've got to do some carpet across the bottom. Now, what we're thinking about here in terms of colors is we're thinking like light gray, maybe a medium gray, maybe a light gray, maybe a white, and a gray here. So kind of keep the grays and whites theme going. And then we've got to do some electrical stuff, kind of rewire some of the motor, rewire some of the electrical, put in some lights for nighttime so we can see down in the boat with the lights, and maybe a spotlight off the front. We're not really sure, but it's kind of the plan. We're hoping to be done maybe a month and a half. You never know how these projects wind up going, but that's kind of what we're thinking for the boat. And then after that, there's one more project I forgot to totally mention. We're going to put a swim platforms on the back. So a swim platform and a little ladder so that we can get up and down a little easier in what we're doing. And I guess that's pretty much what we're thinking about doing. Woo! Okay, let's talk about what we're doing today. Today is a project that I'm not really excited about doing, only because I'm not real certain about how to get this done and make it work right. But I think it's important because if you see what's going on here, we got this, the boat comes out and then they've got this piece of plastic, and this piece of plastic is designed to keep the water down so that when it hits this, it doesn't splash everywhere. But I mentioned earlier that the motor is too high, and it looks like it's about, it's about 3 or 4 inches higher than it really needs to be. And you can see, and I'll give you a shot of this later, you can see right here, like the edge of the water line is actually above the prop. And well, that's really good for like super high performance speedboats, for a family boat. That's probably not what we're trying to do. So let's talk about this motor height issue we got going on here. When I look at the Mercury fitment guide of where you should place your motor with respect to the height of the back of the hull, it says you generally want this line here to be a couple inches below this line if it's like a heavy work boat. You want this to be maybe an inch above the line if it's like a family boat, and you want it 2 or 3 inches higher if it's a high performance speedboat. So I think what we're shooting for is somewhere along the lines of like an inch. So I got a straight line here, a straight bar, and you can see that when we pull this line off the bottom of the hull, you know, we got several inches here, like 3 inches, maybe above the line we should have. And what this also doesn't really show very well is that the bottom of this hull is honestly tapers up at the back. We made it that way so that it could hold a jet pump a little easier if we ever went with an inboard. So I mean, I should be shooting for something, you know, a ½ inch to an inch higher than this point right here. So it looks like I need to figure out how to lower this motor 3 inches. Now, what we got a challenge here is that it's got this adjustable mount, which is really nice, but the mount is currently bottomed out. So the motor can only go up, and it looks like it has about 3 inches of motion inherent in this mount, but it's already bottomed out. If I need to drop the motor 3 or 4 inches, I need to move this whole mount down 3 inches. Now, looking at that, it may be a little tricky because we got this, see all these wires, you know, all the lines that feed the motor, they come in right here. So this is gonna have to lower down too. Okay, so I think you got a plan here. It's pretty straightforward. It might be a little bit of work, but I think it'll be the best solution for us. So we know we got to lower this motor, and to do that, we're just going to pull the bolts out, lower it down, patch up the holes, drill some new holes, bolt the motor on. But the big challenge here comes with this wire harness, this wire bundle. The problem here is that this piece, this little splash guard, is in the way. So we're just gonna pull this whole piece out. And while we're at it, we're going to clean up some of this stuff for when we put the back deck on here when we do the interior. So get that out, clean it up. We should be all right. So that's the first project. So let's just see what happens here when we pull this cover off, and we'll just see what we're dealing with in here. Okay, so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for some lifting points. I'm thinking I can get under this thing with my engine hoist, but I'm not sure. But what I'm looking for is a lifting point. And currently I see nothing. I see nothing that looks like a lifting point. So maybe we will turn to the interweb and figure out what they recommend for doing the lift on these things. Okay, so quick search on YouTube. It taught me something I didn't know here. So here's what you're supposed to do, apparently. So underneath this cover, which has 3 screws that I've already taken out, there is the flywheel. And in the flywheel, there is this feature here for mounting a lifting bar. Now, I don't have one of those, so I'm gonna have to figure out what to do by lifting it by this flywheel to get it up and out. So I may wind up building a little thing that hooks here and goes into these holes. This thing's really big. I don't know where I'd find a thread like that, you know, in my garage to go do. But maybe what I'll do is I'll wind up just kind of maybe just going around this whole flywheel with a big strap. I don't know quite yet. Let me experiment here and see what I can figure out. Thinking about this a little more. Definitely want to get this motor off of here by lifting from here. But I think the first thing I gotta do is I gotta break all these connections from the motor so that I can lift the motor up and away. That's one. And then 2 is I think I'm gonna take this motor off in 2 pieces. I think I'm gonna separate the motor from this lifting device, or this height adjuster, first. Leave this attached to the boat for now, and just get the motor off using these bolts and these first. I think that's probably the way to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to get, because I don't have a good place to put this motor, you know, I don't have a stand or anything like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back the trailer up underneath the cherry picker, pick the motor up, pull the boat back forward, and then do all the work while the boat's sitting right here. And then when I'm ready to remount the motor, I'll back the trailer back in, drop the motor, bolt it back on. Should work, I hope.
Move! Up!
Okay, so what I've done here is I've built this little plate with a eye bolt on it, and I have 3 holes here that line up with the 3 holes on the top of the flywheel. So we're going to put these things in, lift right up. No problem. Oh man, my tools are getting so hot they can't touch them. So now we're back to getting these guys out of here. Let's see. As I recall, this one was fingered loose. There we go. Motor's up. Motor's up. Good job. Okay. Now I just pull the boat away and I should have a motor there. Okay, first thing we're going to do here, we're just going to make a little room for ourselves by taking off this dude. These are just 7/16 inch, looks like zincs, but they're really rusted out, so I'm using the impact wrench. Okay, these are off. Here we go. Oops. Yeah, now that the motor's removed, we can start getting this stuff out of the way. So these throttle cables first. If we can. Okay, so we can get these electrical cables out of here. Youch. Youch. Okay, here we are, ready to go. Double eyes, arms, leather apron, ears, and building gloves. Very clear. Now the goal is just to get the rest of this thing out of here, so we'll just start hacking it. Okay, I got both cuts done here. Cut across the bottom. We can get this thing out there. Okay, so now that that's out, I'm just going to clean it up using this grinder wheel. Using special aluminum grinding wheels. They're kind of pricey, but they're the only thing that really works for aluminum. If you try using steel grinding discs, they just gum up and they don't work at all. So this is really the only way to do it. Boy, okay. Got all that welded, got all that ground out and cleaned up. Probably a little more to do with the flap disc, get that nice and clean in there. Still a little bit of silicone in there we got to get out. Might take that out with the wire wheel. Okay, now thinking ahead here, we know what we're going to do is we're going to have a piece of plywood that runs basically all the way across the back that has cushions on it. So I want to utilize as much of this existing stuff as possible, but I think for right now what I got to do is take out just this section of it on both sides so that I can get a piece of plywood to lay down in there. And then when we put the motor back in, we'll contour this around the motor so that it fits nicely. So that's the next deal, is start cutting on that. We may wind up having to change this piece around a little bit too. We'll have to see. It's kind of funny because I got so into my grinding project, I forgot this is a motor project. But I got this all cleaned up now. Got that thing out so I can do it. Now I just got to clean it up, re-drill some holes down lower, and bolt that motor back on. It's probably 2 o'clock now, maybe 2:30. I really want to be done by like 6, so I think I can do it. I just got to get plugging away on it. So the next step is, well, I'm going to do a little more cleanup here. Get this mess cleaned up. You can see on these motor mounts, I got a real ugly cut job right there. I'm just gonna clean that up with the grinder real quick. Clean this off. Make the marks. What do we decide? 4.5 inches lower? 4 or 5 inches lower? Make the marks 5 inches lower. Bolt the sucker back on. Put the motor back on. All good. Okay, I've decided to go 5 inches down. Why 5 inches? Because I know I need at least 3 to 4 inches normally, and the adjuster is at the bottom end of the travel, which has about 3 inches of travel as well. So if I want to come down 4, I drop the motor 5. That'll give me an adjustment of 2 to 5 down from where I was. So that should be a good spot. So now I've marked the holes. I'm gonna drill them. I'm gonna take some measurements, and then I'm gonna mount it up there, make sure everything fits right, and I'm gonna pull it off, weld up the holes, paint it, and then put it back on later. So I think that's the new plan for the day. All right, I guess let's drill a hole. Okay. So what you see here is I'm drilling through some wood. That's because this boat is built. This back end of this boat is built out of that 2x5 box, and that box was filled with wood so that it wouldn't crush when we tighten the screws down on it. And just tap this on. So yeah. Okay, so we've been working on this all day, and what we've done is we've dropped the motor mounts by about 5 inches. Now what that allowed us to do is to bring this line here in line with the bottom of the boat. So now you can see that we did pretty good here. It's pretty much in line. We can still come down another couple of inches, which is good for giving more power, and we could go up another ½ inch or so before we run out of adjustment. And if we really need to come up more in the future, what we do is we move this bolt and just raise the motor to here. So if we find that we don't have enough adjustment going up, we still got another 1.5 inches up, and we've got about 3 inches down. So with this setup, we should be in really good shape for putting it at the proper depth. Of course, we won't know until we actually start running it, if we like it or not. So that's it. That's it for the day, guys. We're just gonna clean up a little bit more, and I'll leave it like this. I still got to clean up a bunch of messes around here, but then when we're ready to paint, I'll pull the motor back off, paint all this stuff back on, and then put the motor back on. All right, cool. See ya. The goal this weekend is to get started on the tower. In order to do that, we have to do a little bit of preparation work first. First thing we're going to have to do is clean off some of the existing mounting points that exist for the existing canopy top, and do a little bit more cleanup around the windshield. We're going to have to remove the existing features that were there for the old handrail. This one there. You're going to have to remove that handrail as well as this mounting fixture here for the existing canopy top. Now for this windshield, what we're going to do here is, the intent is to bring that first bar right along this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out this window. We're going to cut this portion of the window off, cut it down into there. That way when we put that first bar in, it'll weld base down here and have a weld all the way along the top there. And that'll give it a lot of real good lateral support. So the first thing we have to do is get rid of these cleats and clean everything up using the grinder. Okay, so let's talk about that. So, came through here, I pulled out a bunch of bolts here, took off these side pads here, took off the lights up here, got to these guys. I want to kind of show what's going on here. If you look, flathead screw got stripped out. So now I'm going to go through the process of taking out a stripped screw head. I think I have the right tools, but I don't know that I've ever actually done this before, so it may be kind of a learning experience for me. Okay, so what I got is this thing called a speed out. Brand new set, never used them before. I bought them for something, but then it turns out I never needed them. I'm not real sure what size I'm gonna need, so I'll probably just start with the smallest and hope for the best. So let's just see what happens here. Okay, it looks like these actually run in looks like these screw heads actually run in reverse, so that's kind of weird. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so made a little hole. Take this out. And these things, see here, if you look at this thing, kind of just runs like a screw almost backwards. So let's just put the tip in there. This one's slow. Okay, something's happening. Oh, I just sheared it off. Look at that. Huh. It's too bad. I really want to get that out of there. Now let's figure out what to do with that. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, that is clearly not going to do the trick for me. Let's do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, so now instead of having a hole full of metal, I got a clean aluminum hole that I can just weld up and then re-tap if I need to put this back in later. It's kind of a fun little experiment, huh? Yeah. Another thing we got to do here is we got to take off these lights. It looks like they're held on with these big rivets, so we're just going to drill those out and pull this light off. Oh, that was easy. Let's see if we can do this one. Let's just see if that thing comes loose. Oh my gosh, it does not come loose. This one's not all the way out. Let's see if we can pop this cover. There we go. Yeah, see that? There's two rivets there too. Let's pull those rivets as well. Okay, the next step is to remove this thing. Just for the fun of it, we're going to try doing it the old-fashioned way. That's fun. Okay, so now we're going to take off this rail here. I gotta get suited up and the grinding gear, take that thing off. I don't think at this point I'm going to try to make it look too pretty because we're not quite prepping for paint yet, but I'm going to try to do a decent job on it. And it is, it's 102 degrees today, so this is kind of painful, putting on all this gear and sitting under here. So I'm going to try not to spend too long grinding. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, same safety kit as before. Got the apron. We do the arms. Okay, we're going to do inner eyes, outer eyes, ears, and gloves. Okay, the first thing we want to do is cut these welds. So we're going to use this cutoff wheel, try to get them started. Sweet. Now we'll go to the other side. Now I have to clean up this and this. I'm going to do that just with a regular grinding wheel. Okay, got that job done. Cleaned off these tops. They look pretty good. Not ready for paint, but not in too bad shape. I wanted to show you something here, because it is just hot out, and I wanted to show you kind of what I'm dealing with here. So, if you look, the insides of these goggles are completely covered in sweat, and then sweat drips off my forehead onto this outer mask, and it makes it really difficult to see clearly. So that's going to be my excuse for when some of these grinds don't look quite right. I'm going to say, yeah, because it was hot out and I was sweaty. So, yep, that's what's going on there. Okay, I look at it. There's a couple more spots on the inside to clean up with the grinder. I better get that done now. Okay. So you can see that it's a lot cleaner now. It's ready for me to do the windshield. We got to do some chores today. We got to do some parenting. So I'm done for the day, pretty much. There's a couple more screws I'm going to pull out before I'm actually go inside, but we're done for the day. Tomorrow we're going to tackle the windshield. So that'll be fun. Okay, the project for today is to basically get this tower started. What we're going to do here is we're going to wind up removing this section of the windshield and replacing that with the tower. The first bar is going to go up here. The second bar is going to go up there. They're going to triangulate near the top. Now, a lot of boats have towers, but this is going to be one of the only boats I've ever seen with a tower integrated into the windshield like this, and with the long shade canopy on top. I'm a little nervous about that. I haven't seen a lot. I think it will look good, and I think it'll be super functional. Now, what we're really trying to go here in terms of functionality we're trying to create a lot of space from the tower back where the passengers can have access to the water. So they'll be able to reach down, stick their hands in the water, jump out from almost anywhere in the boat, and come out and be able to walk to the tower itself and climb up from just right here, or right here. They'll be able to get access to the tower. And I think that'll make it a lot more usable and a lot more connected to the water. So yeah, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take these windows out, both sides. We're gonna get the grinder, we're gonna grind these cuts out, and then grind this off. That should be a lot of grinding, but it should go all right. See how it works. Okay, so if we're gonna take out this section of the windshield, the first thing we gotta do is figure out how to get this window out. So let's get this thing out of our way. Okay, so I got a big old flathead screwdriver here. The first thing I did is I saw this seam here, so I said, okay, let me just start kind of pushing on it and see what happens. And it looks like this will be super easy. I can just push this window right out. Okay, the window's out. We're just going to ensure everything that's, we're just going to mark it so we can cut it. Get that nice and straight. Take a look at that. I think that looks it looks like what we wanted it to. It came out all right. Gotta grind off the rest of that weld with the angle grinder, but this looks just like I was hoping it would. I'm gonna get the post in here, get back together. Okay, so now that I'm about ready to put this first vertical in here, I want to make sure I get this measurement right so I can cut the pipe to the appropriate angle. So I brought this along just to act as a standoff. So I'll just put that there, put this in the bottom, square that up, and just work this over until it's lined up. If you look at that, if you look at that little mark, let's see, that's it. 103 No, 113, so it's from 90, it's 23 degrees. Okay, so what's going on here? We got our compound miter saw with the Diablo 7-inch metal cutting blade. Now, this saw normally takes a 10-inch blade, but I don't have one. So what I've done is I've put this little wooden block in here to raise the bed and pull it out such that when I do cuts, I can cut off a full piece of pipe. I think what we'll do is we'll get this squared up, and we'll just give this a go. Let's see what happens here. Come around. We hit this post. I'll try that again. I've done some grinding on the bottom of this thing as well as getting a nice clean edge there for welding it up when it's ready. But when we set it up in there, it looks pretty good. You know, we got some small gaps, but they're all smaller than an eighth. We need a little gap there to fill and melt into with the MIG anyway, so I'm pretty happy with this. I think one of the things we're going to want to do today is probably get this thing at least tacked into place for now. I'll probably just tack it in case I got to change something later, but I want to get both these up and tacked so I can start making measurements. One of my concerns is I've got to put the notch up there, and I'm worried about being able to locate that notch appropriately. So I think what I might do is I might just notch it in place. Yikes, I don't know, we'll see. Okay, also one of the things we got to do before I weld this bar on is that I'm going to use this bar as the conduit to run electrical up to the top. It's just kind of a convenient place because this is kind of where the electrical panel will be. So in order to do that, I got to get a hole going here. Okay, after I get that little hole started, I'm going to use my Harbor Freight hole bit here. Drill this out bigger. Okay, now I'm gonna have Tina come out. She's gonna hold this here while I weld it up. Looks pretty good. Okay, well I'm gonna shoot it down a little bit. Okay, let go. Yeah. Okay, let's get this side zapped up in place too. Okay. Cool. Now I got both starts of the tower up. I think right now we're gonna probably worry about doing a little tube notching, or maybe we'll put the second tower up. I'm not real sure right now. Stand by. Okay, I think the first thing we wanted to do was establish a setback. We videotaping? Yeah, okay. So the first thing we want to do here is establish how far back we want the base to be from this post. So we're going to measure. We're going to look. We're say I like 32 inches. So I'm just going to make a mark here at 32 inches. That's the distance between the back of this post and the front of the next post. Okay? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure how far is it from the edge to the side. That appears to be, how big is that? It appears to be 5/8 of an inch or so. So that means right there. So we need to put the base of that post right there, and then we need to measure this at 95 inches from the opposite side of the boat to the tip of this pole. So I'm going to hold this here. You set up that tape measure. tip. It needs to be 95 inches. So what I would suggest, oh, can you reach that even? Okay, you can't even reach that. So I think we need to get you a step ladder so you can do this. I'll be right back. So here's how we're setting this up. We've got the bottom measured 32 inches from that bar to this bar, 5/8 of an inch from here to here. We've got a spacer set up there on the top to act as a locating jig. And then we eyeballed this way. We took a measurement off the sun, and Tina's watching the shadow. So we gotta do it quick before the sun moves, or we're gonna lose our vertical alignment. There we go. Now we'll just lift this up real quick. Okay, let's talk about this thing. This is my brand new Harbor Freight tubing notcher set up with a 1 1/2 inch hole saw. So the intent here is that you put your pipe in, you crank this thing down, you get your drill, and you drill it, and it will cut a perfect little notch for you. You know, it's Harbor Freight. I'm pretty skeptical, but the price is right with the 20% off coupon, so I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to cut the front ones first. I've got this set up for 23 degrees, just like we cut the bars in the first place. Hopefully that gets us in the ballpark. And we'll see what happens here, I guess. So I've set the tube notcher up on the pipe I intend to notch. I've got the arbor set up straight back towards the pole that it's going to go to next, where the pipe needs to go through. And I'm going to mark the height, both of the bottom of the cut and of the clamp. So hopefully I can duplicate that on both sides. So let me get that clamp marked. Wow, that was just easy as could be. Perfect, I like it. Okay, so this thing's shaping up here, right? We got the front upright, we got the back upright, we got the beginnings of the hoop. I mean, it seems like a good height. I can walk under it pretty easy. Might be a little higher than I really intended it, but I think for right now we're just going to go with this. For now, I might wind up bringing it down a little bit. I mean, you can see, I can barely fit under here, so maybe that's appropriate. So the last couple of nights after work, I've been working on the hoops for the tower. We've got a couple of them built. I got two of these. These are the hoops that go over the top of the boat, and I got one more hoop here that goes around the back of the boat. And now I'm going to show you the process I've been using to build these while I do the front hoop. I borrowed this tubing bender from a work friend of mine, It's set up with 1.5-inch dies, and it does a really good job of bending this aluminum. I haven't ruined any pieces yet, and they come out really clean looking. So this thing is great for doing what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this hoop that's going to come out and go across the front of the boat. What I want to do first is measure these angles here so that I can bend my pieces of aluminum to fit right. So this first bend I'm going to want to make is going to be between here and here. And it would appear that that bend angle is going to be about about 65 degrees. So the next one, we're going to measure this one, and it's going to measure at about 25 degrees. If we think about it, that makes sense. 65 plus 25 is 90 degrees. So I think those are the measurements we'll use for this. Okay, so we're all set up here. We've lubricated our pipe with some oil. We've got the dies in place. All the pins are set. All we're going to do is we just set the jack to go mode. We just start cranking away on this hydraulic cylinder. Then when you get out sufficiently far, take the pressure off. Pull this pin out. Reset the arm. And then you just keep going. Okay, so now we're at 65, but this stuff will spring back a little bit, so I go a few degrees over 65 and let it spring back to where I want it to be. So that day didn't go quite as planned. We got this monsoon coming through here. It's getting really windy. It's getting real hard to work. I'm a little afraid of getting struck by lightning. So I'm just gonna kind of show you where I got to. This up tomorrow. So far, I've got this bar. I've got 2 bends in it. Tomorrow we'll put 2 more bends in it. We'll weld it up. But okay, that's all for tonight. We'll resume tomorrow. Okay, back at it. It's Saturday morning. We've had a nice little rain roll through last night after the storm, and we're just going to get back to building that hoop around that top. So, get to it. So now we're going to start bending the other side of that hoop I showed you yesterday. Again, the first thing we do is get a little layer of oil on this thing so it slides through the die smoothly. And we line it up in the dies just the way we want it. Set the depth. Right there. Make sure that we're, on plane here with this thing. And then once we think we're in a good spot, start adding a little tension to this. Okay, so this is a bit of a lull moment here. So it turns out when I went to bend this one, so this is the original piece, and when I bent it, I put it in the bender and bent on this side of the mark, and then when I went to do this one, I didn't flip it over and I bent it on the wrong side of the mark. So what that means is basically I'm going to have to cut this thing apart, put in spacers, and weld it back together, which is kind of disappointing because I thought I did a pretty good job bending it up, but I was wrong. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, I got these towers up in place. I'm going to put the first 2 hoops on first, followed by the back hoop, and then I'm going to work on this guy on the front hoop. Okay, so what I've done here is I put this strap here to make sure I keep the right lateral separation as I weld this first hoop on. I'm trying to set it straight up over the top of this bar. About like that. For now, I'm just going to tack it, and then I'm going to weld it up tight later. Okay, there's the first look at the top with all the hoops on. Let's go down and take a look from down below, see what we think. Okay, this is what it looks like. A couple more pieces for our hoop, kind of some reinforcement, some structural elements. So, we got some pieces measured, we're just going to notch them and weld them in. Okay, so we're just going to drop this piece in real quick. Not like that. Okay, there's the new view from the front. Okay, so what do we got going on here? Well, this is like, you know, when you're used to have a TV and that TV went out and then you bought another TV, and instead of moving out the old TV, you just put the new TV on top of it. It's kind of what I got going on here. See, I got a good news, bad news story here. On the good news, I know that I'll never have to buy another blade for my table saw. The bad news is I can't get this blade out of my table saw. So now I've got the metal blade. I moved it over to my skill saw. I've got a little fence set up here, and I got to make this cut on this piece of aluminum. It's funny, about halfway through that cut, I'm like, man, this is loud. And then I'm just like, oh yeah, my ear muffs are sitting on top of my head. That's not gonna help me at all. Okay, so let's talk about what these things are actually for. These things are going to become the set platform for up here. I wanted them to have a little bit of a gap to run straps through underneath them. I'm just gonna have to do a little bit of a filler here, but this is gonna have enough room for a strap underneath it. So if we like the way that sits, we'll just tack that up into place. There's one. Okay, I'm out of pipe, so I can't finish the rest of the tower today. But since I got a lot of hours left in the day, I thought I'd start tackling some of the other stuff I got to do. One of the things I want to do is I want to take advantage of some of the space behind this bulkhead for additional storage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a rectangle. I'm going to box it out behind it. I'm going to be able to store stuff in there. So after I cut out this square, I welded up a little box out of 3/16 inch material, and then I welded it on in. I left a little lip here so it could have, you know, so stuff won't always just fall out right away. And then also I left this bottom edge unwelded so that if it gets water in it, it'll drain down into the bilge, so it won't just pool water up in there. So I've got another hour before I probably need to be done for the day. I think what I might do is just finish zipping up some of these welds, get this top nice and finished up. So before I weld all these up, I'm going to go through with the stainless steel wire wheel, clean up all these joints before I weld them. It should help give me just a little bit cleaner welds. Okay, I got a lot of those welds taken care of, but I'm not going to finish up today. Got some stuff I got to do, and I need to be done for the day. So I guess as we go forward, we're going to keep working on this top. I got a bunch more. I got to put in all the steps, and I got to bring in 2 more support bars. But I have to go buy some more pipe to do that. Yeah, but I feel like we got a pretty good place today. Almost got almost all of the pieces cut and welding done. Just a few more little things to work on, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer to paint, so that's good. I'm gonna share a funny Arizona thing with you. You might have noticed I had my coffee cup sitting here all day, and throughout the course of the day, the sun's been beating down on this cup, and it's black. And so I just went to take a drink of it right now. I noticed that, it's still hot. It's kind of funny. Something you don't really think about, something you don't really get used to, but it's bizarre. You also notice too, you get your coffee, you put it in your car, and then after work, you go drink your coffee and it's still hot. I don't know, it's funny. Okay. Let's see, the plan for the day is to, you see I've got all these sheets of plywood laid out. I got those pieces there, they're cut to the width of the boat. These pieces here are set aside to do the upholstery. But it looks like the rain has picked up, and I don't really want to move all these things out. I don't think this rain's going to last very long, so I'm just going to leave them out there. They'll get a little wet, and throughout the course of the day they'll dry out, and then I'm going to cover them with some sealant. Okay, so it looks like the rain's stopped for now. I'm going to get in here and clean up all this water, vacuum it out with a shop vac, and then get this bilge pump set up and going. Okay, so I think what I want to do is basically mount this base for the bilge pump right about there, and then the pump itself will just drop in like that. And then I'll just reroute some of this plumbing, and I'll be able to put my bilge pump right in there. But it looks like for right now I gotta wait for this to dry out a little more. Water's continuing to kind of weep in a little bit from different areas, and I gotta let it dry out before I can put that pump in. So now that I got that bilge vacuumed out, I'm gonna let that water dry out before I try to install the bilge pump. But it occurred to me, before I get these floors out of here, I think I want to finish grinding all the rest of these things up, get them cleaned up and ready for paint. I got to do this. I got to put this new door in here, and I got to do this one as well. Once that's done, and I get the rest of the stuff ground out, I'll pull the floor out. Okay, so it's dried out a little bit, and now I'm going to seal up these pieces of plywood. It looks like maybe the water warped them a little bit, which has me concerned. But I'm just going to seal them up, and if it becomes a problem, I'll just have to buy new sheets or see if I can get them flattened out by just leaving them on the floor of the garage. Not sure yet. Okay, so what I'm going to be using for this is Thompson's water seal. Got this from the Scratch and Dent Home Depot. So hopefully it'll work good for me. So here's another little project I've decided to do. I've taken out the oil, the two-stroke injector oil, and moved it from this side. I'm going to put it on this side, and it's going to sit right here. There's the battery mount. Here's where I'm going to put the new oil mount. And then I'm going to take advantage of this space over here, and I'm going to make this like a rope locker so that I have easy access to ropes whenever I need them. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut a piece of sheet metal and weld it in there. Should be pretty straightforward. So yesterday I did a bunch of cutting with the angle grinder, cutting the sheet good, and that was actually kind of hard. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use the circular saw with the metal blade in it. So I got a little piece of sacrificial wood here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to cut this right along these lines. Yeah, that was a lot easier. Since the draining for the transom still is out this corner, I need to make some kind of a relief here. So I'm just going to add a relief cut, pretty big, about like that maybe, something like that. And then on this side, you know, we still have to have room for all these cables and stuff to go through, but I wanted a nice surface for those to ride on. So I just got this extra bend piece. I'm just going to tack this in here. Okay, so I was hoping to, all right, so it's Labor Day, it's Monday, Labor Day. So I was hoping to be able to get into paint this weekend, but yesterday I wound up helping some friends move and just haven't been able to work on the boat as much as I needed to. So today it's gonna be a lot more of the same, prep for paint, grinding, sanding, that kind of thing, a little welding. But that's kind of about what the plan is for today. I'd really like to get it primed and painted next weekend. So over the course of the next week, it's just gonna be little stuff here and there to get it ready for priming and painting. Since we retitled the boat down here in Arizona, we have to put on our Arizona identification number. So I'm just scraping this old stuff off with this razor blade best I can. Okay, I've been doing some sanding, some welding, some grinding on this thing this morning. Tell you what, it is tough to stay motivated for this kind of stuff. Sanding is just getting really old at this point. Don't know for sure, but anyway, a couple of cars aren't here today, so it gives us a good opportunity to get a good walk around the boat and kind of see what things are looking like without having all the stuff in the way. As you can see, I'm pretty happy with the way that thing's shaping up. It'll be really cool to see it once it's got color and once it's got the paint and the canvas on it. the seats. It's gonna look, I think it's gonna look real sharp. Another thing I want to do is I want to get this little electrical panel installed. This thing is a cool little product. It's got 6 rocker switches, 6 breakers. It's got a 12-volt plug. It's got 2 USB ports, and it's got a voltmeter for the battery. This will be handy to just kind of run a bunch of different circuits. You know, previously there was only a couple circuits, but now we're going to try to do navigation lights, interior lights, bilge pump, accessories. So we needed a few more switches, and this little thing works pretty good. But to get it installed, we have to just cut a little hole out right here. So I'm going to measure this up and just figure out how big of a hole we need, and then go ahead and cut it. I've gone ahead and removed this wiring harness. Not so much because I think it's bad, but because I can't tell what's going on here. And since I'm adding a new electrical panel anyway, it's probably best if I just start over. For now, we are going to make a hole. Boop, 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 boop. Beep, boop, 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 boop. Cool. But there's still a lot of screws here I need to get out. I'm hoping I can just pull them out with the drill. They'll back right out. So I'm gonna try first. Mostly just Phillip heads. So let's see if we can. Oh man. Yep, that is not gonna work. That is not gonna work. That is not gonna work. Okay. 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 It's Sunday. Yesterday we went up to Chuck's cabin, had a nice little barbecue up there, so I didn't get any work done. But today we're back at it. The goal again is to just get ready, get this boat prepared for some painting. So we got to work on this project. This one's been kind of tough. There's this rubbery kind of stuff on this deck. We're grinding it off and just getting it cleaned up. So let's get to it. So we got that ground off the best we could for now. What it does is it leaves a lot of this green paint and residue behind. So I'm just going to wash this out and make sure that we're nice and cleaned up. Then I'm going to hit it with an acetone wash, and then I'm going to move on to the next. So now we're installing these pieces that are going to be used to hold the bench seat backs in place. And because I've got a bunch of cables running through this this piece of box here, I'm running the hose through it to try to keep all this stuff inside cool, because I got to do some welds. So I've got 8 of these things to do. I'm just going to try to tack them up here and not get them too hot, and then weld them here at the bottom. And I got myself my square. to help me get these things on straight. So let's kind of get going on it. I've been threatening to install this little door here for a long time. Today we're finally going to do it. Got this little piece of piano hinge. It's going to sit in the bottom like this. Got this piece of aluminum that's going to be cut to fit right in that doorway. And so I've got to do two things. I've got to weld the hinge to the bottom and weld the door to the hinge. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so to weld this thing on here, I've decided I'm going to use my little hole punch. I'm just going to punch a series of holes so I can weld it right down right on top. So this is kind of a cool little tool. Don't use it much, but it's perfect for this. So what I want to do is get these holes in the transom welded up. So I bought some rod, and my plan here is to clean up the hole with this drill bit, put the rod in, weld both sides, and that way I'll have a nice clean waterproof seal on those. So I'm just going to get these holes just cleaned up a little bit, and then we'll stick through. This. You see I got these plugs pushed in there. Turns out that was the through hole all the way through on both sides, so I just plugged that one as well. This one got a little stuck. You see here that you got just kind of cattywampus in that hole. So that's fine, I'll just weld it up too. And then that one's just a little bit long, and I'll weld it up. So for right now I'm going to go inside and weld on the inside. And now we're just going to grind these guys off, clean up some of these welds, hit it with the wire brush. So now we just keep rolling around on this thing with the grinder and the wire wheel. So we're happy with the way it is. Let's see, I've done all the welding, I've done all the grinding, I've done the wire wheel. I hit that thing with a little OSFO to do a little acid etch on it, and I'm going to clean it off with a pressure washer. So let's take a look at this. You can see spots like this. Some of the OSFO did a really good job of etching it, really clean, crisp, shiny surface. Some places in here, you know, not quite as much as others. But generally you can tell, like in there, it's very evident where the OSFO was applied and where it wasn't. I think I'm really happy with it, and I'm going to go through and make extra sure I've cut all these surfaces with it. They look really, really clean, and I think they're going to hold paint really well. So I'm going to go through and re-OSFO this a bit more. It's Tuesday after work. We're going to do a little bit of work tonight. I think the plan for today is to do a little bit of carpentry. I'm going to try to get these floor panels cut. I'm not going to screw them in yet until after I get all the paint done, but I want to get the floor panels cut and put in, and get on this, start doing some wood back here on this transom area. So that's what I'm going to do. It should be, you know, pretty casual today. No big deal. So there you have it, basically a brand new floor. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is right in the back, I'm going to cut a hole that can be taken out, and that's where I'm going to have access to my bilge, both for working on the bilge pump and for being able to dry out the bilge, because you've seen the water kind of get stuck down there on the bottom. So I'm gonna get that going. This board to cut right on top of these two main rails. So I'll cut that out as soon as I measure the depth between here and here. I'll make another line and cut it there. Okay, today I bought a little lock thing at Ace Hardware, and we're going to install it in this door such that I can latch the door shut. So we're going to... Okay, so we're done with this installation. It's all done. I think it fits pretty nice. Had to wind up modifying this a little bit to fit, but I think it all works pretty good. Okay, now we're just looking around. We're saying, what else is left? We got the cubby holes, got the electrical cutouts, got the door, got the other cubby, got a little tray installed, it's got the windows out. I need to take out this bolt thing. I need to do an acetone wash on the deck. Just need to do maybe a little more cleanup along here. Maybe some more cleanup along here. But I think this thing's done. I think I'm ready to prime this thing. I just need to get it cleaned, a little bit more sanding done, and then I'm going to prime it. So, cool. Since the goal is to start getting some of these seats done, some of the carpentry for the seats done, I want to start with a solid base. So that means I need to get these floors in secured. So I'm going to get going on that. Okay, that's a floor. It's in, it's solid. We like it. Next thing we're going to want to do is build this back to go over the back of the transom. That also serves as part of the seat cushion area. So that should be fun. We got this back transom piece basically in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build a little cap over the top here. And this cap is what we're actually going to upholster. So it's gonna come out here. It's gonna bump out here, come back here, like that. I think we might actually wind up doing that in a couple different pieces. Let me think about that. Okay, so this is kind of what the back end's gonna look like. So I can get this out of the way now. So now what we got is we've got a board. We made a 16-degree cut. The board's 21 3/4 inches long. It's gonna sit in there, just about like that. And I'm just gonna make a couple more of those. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm thinking for the bench. Something about like this. A little backrest area. That seems okay. But now what I got to be thinking about is finishing off this section here. Now what I want to have happen is I want this cushion to sit here and come and meet at the edge of this. So maybe I should kind of draw that out. So this is kind of what we're going for here on these seats. You've got this bench. This bench is going to have 3-inch foam through here. This you have a little 4-inch thing here, kind of as a little, I don't know, butt holder inner thing. Then the back's gonna have a piece of plywood that comes up the back here. Then I have 2-inch foam, and then I'll have like a little 4-inch foam that kind of comes up like this, and that'll be the bench. This part here, I'm gonna bring out with plywood and bring down to touch this, and I'm gonna cover that all with 1-inch foam. So right now what I need to do is cut this piece to get upholstered. And what I'm going for here is basically I need to cut something in the right shape such that it matches up with this cushion here. So if I just kind of just draw a line here, you know, something like that is kind of what I'm going for. We gotta make some you know, attachments to keep this thing kind of secured in there during the when it's supposed to sit there, but basically that's what it does. It's just gonna be a cushion. It's gonna come on and off just like that. Probably screwed in from the bottom or something, not sure yet. So now we're screwing down the passenger seat. Okay, so now we're putting in the passenger seat kickboard part, and then after that we're going to be working on the backrests. Okay, so what we've done is we made these 2 side panels. So we'll just kind of put those in for now. I think what we'll try to do is line this. What we'll do is line this front edge with that. Then we'll just screw these things in. I've done a lot of cutting and fitting, and now I'm going to do some drilling and screwing. What's up? Okay, so we are pretty much done here with carpentry. These are the seats. There's that seat. Look at it, you can see I got this thing here. It grants access to in there. I gotta secure these down, but you know, then here's the benches. Here's the back. The other bench. There's this dude. But yeah, I'd say overall, I'm pretty happy with the way this has come out. I'll give you just a little sneak preview of me pretending to be cool here, right? That's how it's gonna go. Alright, so now I got these 2 bench seats done, the bench, and now I'm working on this console piece. I've got these holes drilled for cup holders. You know, you may ask, why so many cup holders? And the obvious response is, because I'm an American, and Americans love cup holders. No, but in all seriousness, I got these in, I got my little mounting bolts put in here, and bang those on, they go on, in theory. And now I'm going to cover this thing with foam and vinyl and get that all readied up. So cool, I'll get on it. So this is it when it's done. That's the passenger side bench end. So now that we got the cover made for this cushion, we staple it in. And that's about it. Okay, so I've been cranking away on these seats all day, and now what I'm going to do is, now that I got the backrest ready, I'm going to screw it on. So I got these piano hinges that I cut to the appropriate length, and now I'm just going to try to screw them in basically the right spot. That's how it's gonna go. Okay, so and we're doing this in a what's called a semi-flat felled seam, which means that we run another stitch right across the top here like this. And as you can see, that results in a nice strong stitch that looks real good. Okay, so as you can see, the boat's pretty well painted right now. I've been doing a lot of work on the upholstery and the paint. Haven't had a chance to film a lot of the paint, mostly because I don't want to get a bunch of overspray onto the camera. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I just need to, I ran out of paint. Had to buy a couple more quarts of it to finish up. But this is looking pretty good. It's actually really hard to make the paint look right. There are certain areas where it gets a little heavy and the texture is really hard to control. I'll show you some of that stuff. So if you look at some of these spots like this, it's like you can tell this is just a little heavier than the areas around it. You know, it's a little heavier here. It got down a little heavier here. Super heavy up through this area. Makes these big textured ridges. But on areas where it's mostly wide open, it's not too difficult to get the texture looking pretty decent. It's just in areas where there's a lot of corners and a lot of edges, and you have to go over it quite a bit of times to get all the different angles, that it actually becomes hard to keep the texture right. So I've got just a couple more cushions to make. They're all done except for just the last few of them. What we gotta do is we gotta do the bench backs. And the bench backs, as you recall, hook on with those cool little aluminum pieces I built. And what I got to do today is get those things welded up and fixtured in there so I can put the little studs on the wood and then put the cushions over the studs. Okay, so now that we got this all marked up, we're going to try putting one of these things in there and kind of see what happens, I guess. Now, the thing I got to remember, so I was going to put the far side towards the post. And I line it up just like that in my little spot. Oh my gosh. I gotta turn on my gas. Okay, we got that other side done. We're just gonna weld up this side. More of the same. Okay. Moment of truth, here we go. Okay. So now I'll just go to the other side. Okay, so that is installed. That. Okay, it's the last weekend before we're supposed to be going on a trip. It's Friday night. I've got a bunch of stuff left to do, but I made a lot of progress. I finally got my paint, so I can finish painting the boat. But I got to work on the gas tank. The interior's done, but not installed. The canvas is done for the most part, but not installed. But I gotta do all the electrical, all the interior carpet, windows. So I just got a ton of stuff to go do. But I think I'm like just kind of putting things back together now. I'm hoping I make a lot of good progress this weekend. We'll see. Okay, the first thing I got to do here is, because kind of like an idiot, I got the gas tank all kind of installed and got all the stuff put around it, but I forgot to install the motor. So I can't get to the motor bolts with this gas tank in here and with these floorboards. So I got to rip all this stuff out, put the motor mounts on, and then put it all back together. Just kind of poor planning on my part, really. So now I got a lot of the upholstery bases out. I'm just going to pull this tank straight out. And now I can get back in here and get access to the engine bolts. And one of the things I'm going to want to do here before I bolt this on is I'm just going to get some silicone, get this sealed around here, get a nice sealed surface so I don't just leak water into the bilge. Okay, now that I got these things siliconed up, I'll just drop these bolts through here. Okay, so we are now all painted. For better or worse, it's all done. Taking a look at it, I don't think it looks too bad. I mean, there's a lot of issues that, you know, happened with it. They make it not quite perfect, but you know what? From here, it looks good enough. I like the color. It's got good texture. It stays nice and cool in the sun. So I'm just gonna go with it. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start going crazy on installing all the electrical. Get the seats in, get the carpets in. I just gotta see how much work I can get done in the next, I don't know, next day or two. So I had to buy some new tube, partly because I moved where the bilge pump was located to be sitting down here a little closer to the front of the bilge, and also because that old hose was pretty stiff. So let's get this thing in here. I think it should be pretty straightforward. The eject side going. So I got the bilge pump installed and plumbed. Now I'm gonna install these little wire clipper things, wire holder things. That's just to keep the wires out of the water when the bilge is full. I'll just kind of screw those in kind of above the water line. Okay, so the tank's in, wired up, fuel line's in, and we are ready to reinstall the seats. Okay, I just pulled my new harness through the gunnel, and now I'm going to reinstall this thing so I can start addressing all these wires. Okay, now that we got this guy on, we're gonna just install these hydraulic steering hoses, and I'm just gonna tuck them up. I made a couple little aluminum brackets. I'm just gonna screw in there and use those to kind of hold that thing in place. I'm just kind of seeing what I got to do here to get these new gauges installed. Looks like the fuel is gonna be perfect right there. I got a new GPS speedometer, and I just drilled a hole for it, and it's gonna go right here. Like that'll fit just perfect as well. So what I'm gonna do now is, I think I'm just gonna clean the bottom of the boat up, and because I can't finish wiring right now, I'm going to maybe start thinking about carpet. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a little wiring. I'm not sure yet. I can do some wiring, but I can't finish it, so I don't know what to do. I guess I might as well just get to work on it. Even though I can't finish, I'll get started. That makes sense. Okay. So I've got the electrical just about done. I just have to adjust one of these screws. It's a little bit long for the dash. And then I'll have the instrument panel in. Really made a lot of progress today. Got all the dash completely done. Got the back in. I'm like ready to start carpet and get these windows. Get the glue drilled out of these holes so I can put these windows back on. Yeah, it's been a really good day so far. Tomorrow I'm just gonna make sure I get the carpet done. Try to finish up some of the electrical. Mount the motor. Put in the seats. But like literally, I'm like 8 hours away from being like done. So I'm pretty excited. So we've done it. We got the boat. We got it in the water. It floated. The motor started. It's sitting down there at the dock. The kids are messing around like usual. But we're gonna go take this boat and we're gonna see if it works. I'm so excited. Here, there it is. See it down there? The kids on the roof already, screwing around. Glad they're having fun. Okay. Cool. Here we are at the north end of Apache Reservoir. We're looking at the dam there, and just on the other side of that is Roosevelt Lake. But it's pretty crazy here with all these rocks. Love it.